Welcome to Grand Forks, North Dakota on National Signing Day, headquarters for UND football, at least for the next couple of hours. And my name is Alex Heinert. We're glad to have you with us for Midco Sports Network's coverage of University of North Dakota Football Signing Day 2017. For the next 60 minutes, we're with you live here from Grand Forks in our Midco SN studios to talk through not just the players that have committed today or the ones that signed on in December, but to go through what all this means for a University of North Dakota football program that has risen to prominence over the last couple of seasons under Bubba Schweigert and is now certainly well on the map in terms of premier programs in the FCS. We're going to be talking with the head coaches coming up shortly. Paul Rudolph, Eric Schmidt, as well as Kevin Maurice will be joining us. Tom Miller from the Grand Forks Herald. Bubba Schweigert will be in studio as well. A lot of great stuff coming your way. And again, so glad to have you with us on a Wednesday morning, February the 1st, National Signing Day 2017. We mentioned again that this has become headquarters for the University of North Dakota football program, at least for the morning as the coaching staff is gathered here. And a quick live look right now actually as the fellas inside University of North Dakota team headquarters. It's been a busy group this morning. They've been working here since about 6:45, getting in their commitments from across the country. And it's been sort of a no-fuss type of a morning for this group. Again, 16 players had verbally committed coming into today. All 16 had now officially signed on the dotted line. So good news there for a group that has worked extremely hard, not just for the last couple of months, for the last couple of years on making this class of 2017 so special. That group, not the only characters here as a part of our studio coverage today, standing right outside University of North Dakota football headquarters, our very own Greg Enkers. And Greg, you've been here since the early morning hours. You've been around this program for a long time. This really is a big and exciting day for University of North Dakota football.
It certainly is, and good morning to you, Alex. It's a pleasure to be with you and to all of the viewers out there who have tuned in to National Signing Day here at 2017, February 1st, as you mentioned, an exciting day. It has almost a Christmas morning feel to it here with all of the coaching staff from Bubba Schweigert's crew here in the house as these national letters of intent have indeed come in this morning. And as you mentioned, it's been kind of business as usual. There hasn't been surprises, but you don't really want surprises on a day like today. These coaches have put in a lot of hard work, logged a lot of miles to get these kids to commit to UND, and it's an exciting morning here as these guys have signed on the dotted line to come play Fighting Hawks football in 2017. As you mentioned, we're going to be chatting with a few guests. I will be joined next segment with offensive coordinator Paul Rudolph, and a little later we'll talk with running backs coach Kevin Maurice. And it's not just the running backs that Coach Maurice works with. He's also the recruiting coordinator here on UND staff, so we're going to pick his brain and get a little behind-the-scenes information from him as well. It should be quite a treat. We're happy to be along from the ride, and until we'll see you next time, let's send it back to you, Alex, in the studio.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you, Greg. Greg Enkers, just outside these doors here in our Midco SN studio next to the University of North Dakota football headquarters. Well, we mentioned UND coming off a very special season, making the D1 playoffs for the first time in their Division I history. It was a great year. They go 9-3 overall. Let's take a look at how they got to that point with a little rundown of what happened in 2016. And it started way back on September the 1st on a Thursday night out in Long Island. UND would struggle to generate offense against a very good Stony Brook defense, but they still led 9-7 going into the fourth. A blocked punt here with under 9 minutes left ended up being the difference as the Seawolves get the 13-9 win. A big test the following week in Bowling Green, taking on an FBS opponent, the defending champions of the MAC. UND would trail 21-10 at the half, but they would rally in the seconds and pull within a touchdown. Stetson Carr scoring with just 13 seconds left. The two-point conversion, though, again, Bubba Schweigert going for the win, would be just off the mark. And UND would fall to 0-2, nearly beating their second straight FBS opponents. The following week, Potato Bowl excitement against the University of South Dakota. UND again trailed by 20 early in the third to their former and future conference rivals. A big pick six there, though, by Deion Harris to complete the comeback. 2 overtimes later, Keaton Sudsrud would fire in for the score to give UND the win over South Dakota. That really started this team on a roll. They'd open a Big Sky play in the mountains of Bozeman. And this was a defensive football game from start to finish. Brady Oliveira, the sophomore standout, goes for 171 yards, including 60 on that touchdown run to put UND up 17-9. They'd have to come up with a big two-point conversion stop in the final minutes to preserve the 17-15 victory. The following week, it's taken on a ranked Cal Poly team, and this was a great day for North Dakota to come back home. They rack up 452 yards of total offense, 71 on that play to Luke Stanley. Big pick here by Torrey Hunt in the end zone to preserve the 31-24 win over the Mustangs. The following week, nothing close about this one, a 40-7 beatdown at Sacramento. They would put up, get this, 422 rushing yards, period. 3 guys over 100 individually, 40-7, a big 33-point win for their 4th straight victory. The following week, more of the same, a big win on homecoming, 45-23 over the defending Big Sky champions. 4 touchdown passes for Keaton Studsrud in the win over Southern Utah. Out to Pocatello at the end of October. It was a battle back and forth, tied at 14 at the half. UND would fight back in the second to earn the 14-point victory. Little controversy and some adversity to overcome against Weber State. Keaton Studsrud went down with a shoulder injury. Brad Heidelbaugh, though, pinch hitting and finding Noah Wanzik on 4th and goal to give UND the lead against the Wildcats. The defense, the story in this one, 7 sacks on the day. They would force 4 Weber State turnovers as well to earn the 27-19 win. Following week, Greeley, Colorado, another road game and another road win. Big day for senior quarterback Ryan Bartles, who comes in relief, finding Luke Mathewson for his first career touchdown pass, 10-point win against the Bears. Northern Arizona was a team that people picked to win the conference before the season. Big Tie title was on the line against this team, and John Santiago and company able to get the job done. Another big comeback in the second half. Of course, UND down 21 points in the third quarter. Deion Harris capping the comeback and giving North Dakota the 38-31 win. That clinched the share of the Big Sky title and a perfect Big Sky regular season that gave UND a bye through the second round of the FCS playoffs, now ranked 7th in the country. Things looked really good early against Richmond, of course, of the CAA. A big touchdown there helped build a 24-7 lead. But the Spiders, a team with a lot of postseason experience, able to fight their way back. That 54-yard completion on a 3rd and 14 set up an 18-yard field goal, and you know how this one goes. A big victory for the Spiders by 3 to give the Richmond team a big win in round 2 of the playoffs. It was a special year, though, certainly for North Dakota. Nothing to take away from this team. 9-3 on the season. A multitude of guys earning all Big Sky honors. 4 on the first team, including Defensive Player of the Year Cole Reyes. A couple of guys on second team. A whole host on third and honorable mention. A really special year for this group from start to finish. And again, as they go 8-0 in conference. Pretty special feat, certainly, across the board. Not just all-conference honors, though, All-America honors as well. 4 North Dakota players earning All-American accolades, led by John Santiago, who picks up an All-American nod for the 2nd straight year, not just as a running back, but as a kick returner as well. A special talent who, of course, has got little eligibility left for him. Cole Reyes, a big part of this defensive effort that led the Big Sky in interceptions. Reyes, 6 different All-America nods. The first player to do so since Weston Dressler had 6 nods back in 2006 and 2007. Deion Harris, 5 interceptions on the year, led the Big Sky in pass breakups. Again, another big part of the best turnover-driven defense in the league and one of the best in the country. And then Michael Coe up front, a guy that came in his only season playing for North Dakota after being a guy that played at the D2 level, really made a difference starting the entire season at 3 different positions on the offensive line. With success, of course, it's a senior-laden team, and 14 seniors have now played their last game for the University of North Dakota. A lot of talent certainly to replace. When you look along the offensive side, each of these guys contributed in lots of different ways. Luke Mathewson, a captain. Michael Coe, an All-American. Alex Reed, a guy that made honorable mention this year on special teams. Clive George is a guy whose career, which has so much promise, certainly coming in from Arizona, derailed a bit by injury, but still a guy that was such a deep threat for this team. Ryan Bartles, of course, stepping in big time as a sophomore quarterback and then playing again this year in the absence of Keaton Studsrud. So certainly some guys that UND is going to have to replace on the offensive side of the football. Defense, really a lot of big holes. A group of starters here that have meant a lot for this UND program over the years. You look at what Zach Arnell did coming back after injury, missing most of last season, having 3 interceptions and really leading this team from the back. A couple of strong players on the defensive front, including Noah Johnson, who was an all-conference guy the last 2 seasons. Linebacker really is where they're going to have the most holes to fill. Taj Rich, a guy that had been a starter since his sophomore year. Dylan Bacher, who had an outstanding senior season to be all Big Sky second team. Brian Labatt, 2-time All-Conference, and then Jake Hansen and Jawan Johnson, a couple of guys that really made a difference in this program. So when you look at it, It's certainly a lot of holes to fill for this University of North Dakota group, but again, that's the beauty of having a lot of kids on the roster that have contributed already, at least from a practice side perspective or from a backup role. A lot of starters still coming back as well, but that's what this day is all about. It's trying to figure out who the next guys are that are going to take that next step and fill in for the departed seniors and some of the other guys that might be switching roles a bit as this season moves on. So we're happy to show you some of the kids that are now coming on officially to this North Dakota program, starting with the 4 who signed on back in December, and that's the beauty of this. It doesn't have to all be on February 1st. Some of these guys, whether they're JUCO transfers, transfer from FBS programs, or incoming freshmen that were able to graduate high school a little bit early, making that commitment back in December. And as you take a look, North Dakota addressing some depth issues at quarterback, signing Andrew Zimmerman, a 6'2 quarterback out of Fresno City College, but a guy that had played at Eastern Washington, has got 3 years left, a sophomore kid that they like a lot. James Johannesson, a kid that North Dakota people know very, very well, of course, a guy from Fargo South that is transferring from the University of Minnesota, 2-time Gatorade Player of the Year in the state of North Dakota, 6,000 rushing yards in his prep career, including 81 total touchdowns. Pretty impressive numbers for the former Golden Gopher. Tamas Stewart is a safety that they expect to come in and make a difference at the back end, certainly with the graduation of Zach Arnell, guy with 2 years left from Chaffee College out in California. And then Cameron McKitty, a great story, a kid that was an outstanding high school running back, first in the state of Texas, then in the state of Washington. A really unique story for a kid that is likely to play wide receiver here at the FCS level. We'll be talking a lot about him and each of these guys over the course of this program today. That's the group that signed back in December. This is the group that came on officially earlier today. 16 players, as we mentioned earlier, had verbally committed to the University of North Dakota with scholarship offers out there. 4 more were also preferred walk-ons that had verbal to this team before. Each of those 20 guys now are officially in the fold, and as you see that list of commitments, it's a long list, split pretty evenly between the offensive and defensive side of the football. We're going to be breaking down a lot of this group as we go. 8 kids from the state of Minnesota, 3 from Colorado, 3 from here in North Dakota. And again, this list isn't final just yet, so maybe 1 or 2 kids that could certainly come on as a preferred walk-on or maybe a late scholarship push if things work out. But again, we're going to be breaking down what this list means, certainly not just with some of the guys that have been watching these kids in high school, but obviously the coaches that have chosen to bring them here to Grand Forks. So stick around. When we come back, it's time to talk to the head hawk. Bubba Schweigert is going to be joining us in studio. We're back in a moment to the North Dakota Signing Day special here on Midco SN. Welcome back to Grand Forks and the University of North Dakota Football Signing Day Special. And joining us, who better to talk to than the head coach of the University of North Dakota, Bubba Schweigert, joining us in studio. And Coach, first of all, congratulations on not just a great season, but an exciting day. This is obviously a day that people look forward to. You and the coaching staff have been working for this day for a long time. Got to feel good just to get this one rolling this morning.
Well, it is a big day for us. You know, it's our future. And we always want to try to improve our football team by increasing the talent level on our team, and you do that through recruiting and developing the guys that you have. So this is an exciting day and a fun time, and we want to share it with our supporters across the region and all our alums and fans, and it's really a lot of fun to do that.
Yeah, certainly a big reason for the success of today, generated by the success that you've had since coming on now your 3 seasons. It's been a 2-win improvement every year, earning a national ranking and a top 10 ranking now for the first time. So many firsts for this program last year. Have you had a chance to reflect on just the 2016 season and what it meant for this program?
Well, we're trying to get better every day, and to see progress on paper is one of the things that is pleasing to us, but we sure want to. Our enemy would be complacency. We want to keep working. You know, we aren't where we want to be yet. We understand that. Our players understand that. Our staff understands it. And we want to keep getting better. And I think by signing this class and the number of fine football players and fine characters that we have in this class, it's going to help us keep going in the right direction.
Yeah, we're going to talk a lot about that group because, as you said, always, again, recruiting is the lifeblood of any program. This is a staff that knows this region certainly very well, has been with you now for a couple of years. How do you kind of divvy out the responsibilities? How does recruiting work here at the University of North Dakota?
Well, we assign guys to certain regions, and they go in, and this process starts, you know, over a year before you actually sign the guys. And we start identifying guys, and then you want to get them on your campus that summer before their senior year, and even in the spring we have a junior day. But you want to start building those positive relationships with prospects and parents, and really start sifting through it and find the guys who are a good fit for your program. You gotta find guys that really want to earn a degree from the University of North Dakota and feel like this program is a good fit, how we go about things. And our guys do an excellent job of that within their region. Once we identify the guys, the entire staff's really involved. We want to get position coaches involved, we want to get coordinators involved, and really build a good, solid relationship.
Yeah, it's not just those conversations. It's a lot of miles on the tires, guys driving all over the place. What does that look like? I mean, this is a team that is trying to recruit in the midst of a season and shortly thereafter. It's a lot of time on the road for these guys.
It is. It's a lot of hours, a lot of hard work, and you got to be really dedicated. And I really appreciate the efforts of our staff. We recruit. Not everybody's right in the 5-hour radius, which we want to do a very good job within 5 hours. But we have to go outside that region to get some arms and legs. We think the heart and soul can come from that 5-hour radius, but the arms and legs got to come from outside, and that's a lot of work to go and get them.
Yeah, certainly. You talk a little bit about the type of kid that you want to see come to the University of North Dakota. One of the great things I think you had said not too long ago is that when you talk to these kids, you mentioned that it's not so much about who you're playing or what conference and all these types of things, which we'll talk about in a little bit, but it's about selling the University of North Dakota, about how this is a place that we want kids who want to be here and want to represent this great tradition. That's a great place to start when you're talking to these young prospective student athletes.
It's our flagship university. It's the University of North Dakota that has a great academic reputation and has all kinds of support throughout the entire country and all over the world, really. We have top programs, and it's just a reflection of who we are at the University of North Dakota, and we want to have our football program join in all that and be a top program in the country. That's the vision, that's the goal, and that's what we keep reminding young men to join our program to help us get to that level, because it's a passion for us and a vision that our staff shares and our current players share. We want to move University of North Dakota to the top of the FCS.
Yeah. Some of the guys coming into this class, it looks like on paper, will have the potential to do that. You mentioned some of the arms and legs. It feels like speed is one of the big unifying factors across the board in the class of 2017 for you.
Yeah, when we recruit all positions every year, with the exception, we weren't going to sign a running back this year, but we feel like at the receiver position, right now in our program, we have big physical guys, but we needed to add some speed and some guys with a lot more wiggle. And I think we were able to do that. We like those guys that can make people miss in space. And then defensively, the secondary was another point of emphasis for us, along with the other positions. But we like those long, rangy guys. We've had a lot of luck with Cole Reyes's and Zach Arnells, and those guys really play well for us. So we got to find those body types and get those guys to fit into our system, and we think we can develop those guys into great football players.
Yeah, we've seen this team have success, certainly in your tenure over the last couple of years, of guys coming in as true freshmen and really making an impact. We saw that last year with kids like Noah Wanzik. We saw it the year before with John Santiago. Torrey Hunt made a big impact last year as a true freshman. Are there a couple of guys that you look at this year and think, this is a kid that maybe can help us right away? Yeah,
we look at those guys throughout the process, and one guy that we think is a top player that we were able to attract here to North Dakota was Zeke Ott. He's a tall, rangy defensive lineman. We think he can become a really good pass rusher, and so we'll take a look at him along with all the guys. We want our guys coming into camp with the attitude that they are going to win a travel spot and be playing in that first game. Once we get through fall camp, we make our final decisions of who's going to redshirt, but all our first-year guys, we want them coming in and with that attitude, hey, I'm going to play in 2017.
Yeah. A couple of guys that have got previous experience that you were able to sign back in December, kids like James Johannesson and Tamas Stewart and Andrew Zimmerman. Those are guys who we can maybe expect to be in the fold a little sooner than later. Nice to have some of those kids with experience already coming in to join the program.
Yeah, we're really happy to have them, and from what we see of them right now, they're going to be great contributors to our program. James, a big, strong guy, and was in a Big Ten program. His work ethic is excellent. Tamas has played college football, has been in our league, and really happy to see him, and his learning is good up to this point, and his effort in the workouts have been very good. Andrew, excited to have him here. Played in college games, and we think he increased our depth at quarterback, and we don't want Cam McKinney's on our campus already too. This guy can really accelerate and really run, and we're really looking forward to those guys contributing in the fall.
Yeah, that's got to make a big impact to get these guys into the program that much earlier, just to get them acclimated, get them running for spring ball, which is going to start, I'm sure, before too long. The crazy thing about the life of a coach, you guys just really go from the season to recruiting, which happens in the season anyway, and then really within a couple of weeks, you guys will be right back out there at practice, which is already happening right now with workouts.
Yeah, we're working on it right now, and Nate Bockel's training our guys with his staff, but we'll be involved now that we're off the road recruiting in those workouts, and then it's time to get ready for spring ball. On March 3rd, we kick that off, and you go through spring ball, and everything at this time of year is about preparing to win a championship. And you win the games in the fall, but this is when you win the championships, the team building and all the hard work behind the scenes, and we're looking forward to that. And these 4 guys that are with us, huge advantage to have them here now to learn the offense, learn the defense, and get involved in the special teams.
Yeah. One last question for you, Coach, and then we'll let you get back to the headquarters over there beyond the wall. This is a class that, on paper, certainly looks exciting. People should be excited about this group of kids that are coming in. If you were just to give a little shout out to the UND fans and say, hey, this is our class, what would you say to the group? What should they know about this group of kids?
Well, I think these kids are really athletic, and I think they're going to show that on the field. But the one thing that I want them to know, the first thing that we recruit is really good characters. We want guys that are going to do the right thing on campus, the right thing when they're down at the mall, and the right thing when they're back home, because they represent us at all times. And that's what I really like about this class. And the other thing, a lot of them were early commits and stuck with us because they believe in what we're doing here at the University of North Dakota.
Certainly really good qualities to have in a group of kids, Coach. Bubba, congratulations on a great class and a great season. Best of luck getting those guys into camp here in a couple of weeks.
Thank you very much.
Bubba Schweigert. We're going to send things now out to the hallway. Greg Enkers standing by with the offensive mind behind this North Dakota team, Paul Rudolph. Greg?
Thanks so much, Alex. And Coach, you're entering year 4 here as assistant coach, offensive coordinator, and quarterback coach. How has year 4 of this recruiting process changed from your first year here at UND?
Well, how it's changed is, we had so much better time in the summertime and the last spring to kind of start to identify guys. That first year here, it was pretty much a month, and you're running here, running there, and making some evaluations that way. It's just been a whole lot easier, better situation from making contacts with guys and creating some relationships.
There's certainly not a bare cupboard by any stretch of the imagination. A lot of key returners coming back to this year's squad. How did that impact the recruiting process this year for you?
Well, we don't so much look at what next year's class or what next year's seniors bring a little bit, but you have to replace those guys obviously in your recruiting class. So, we were looking for at least 3 O-linemen. We wanted to find that. We wanted to get another tight end in the mix because we utilize those guys so much. And then, we've been trying to get our quarterback situation to where we want it, and this was another big year for a quarterback, and then a couple wideouts that could run, and then that's kind of where we ended up.
Looking at, certainly the microscope doesn't get put on any position more than it does the quarterback in the spotlight. And with Keaton Studsrud coming back as a senior, you bring Andrew Zimmerman into the fold, who's got 3 years of eligibility, a rarity for a JUCO transfer, and then bringing in Brock Boltman from Edina as well. How do you see that position evolving ideally for you down the road?
Well, we've been trying to kind of ideally evolve that position since we got here, and trying to get a guy that Keaton will be a senior next year, and then having a couple sophomores in the mix, and then another redshirt freshman or whatever we have. So we kind of have that deal, and we've been working on that for a couple of years, and hopefully this spring and into the future we get that to where we want it. And from what we've shown, what Andrew's shown, and what Brock's shown, that we should be in good hands there, and we've got it under control, hopefully.
The stable of running backs that you have coming back, John Santiago, Brady Oliveira, Oscar Neverman's working his way back into the fold next season, and you add a guy like James Johannesson, and a lot of people that are familiar with the Fargo South program know what he represented there. What do you do with that position group?
Well, you keep giving them the ball. You find ways to get them the ball, and where you can place them all. One thing that we've always, John's a special talent, and we also, there was a reason why we thought we could get him out on the edge a little bit, and hopefully this will maybe allow us to do that, put him in the slot a little bit, and then work with those other guys. And we're not taking John out of the mix; he's too darn good. But we think we can potentially get a few more reps out of a situation like that. And, James is a good, strong downhill guy. I think he ran for 460 one game in the state title game or a few years back. he's, we're expecting good things from him. A good worker, but it's a good problem to have. We're going to find ways to get him the ball.
Absolutely, a good problem to have, no question about that. Thanks for your time, Coach, and good luck this season.
Thank you, sure appreciate it.
All right, Paul Rudolph, offensive coordinator and quarterback coach here. Coming up next segment, we'll chat with Coach Kevin Maurice and pick his brain on some of the recruiting aspects as he is the recruiting coordinator here on staff. For now, let's send it back to Alex in the studio.
Good stuff. Thank you, Greg, and thanks to Coach Rudolph. Now, Paul mentioned this is a team that brought in a quarterback this season who was an outstanding kid at the Edina High School in Brock Boltman. Brock, one of 8 Minnesota recruits that came in, but 4 from the Twin Cities area. And to touch base on not just Brock, but Graham DeVore, a tight end from Matamidi, Connor Cruz, an offensive lineman from Waconia, and Jalen Morrison, a defensive tackle from Woodbury, Minnesota. We had a chance to touch base with Jim Paulson, who covers the Twin Cities area for the Star Tribune. Here's what Jim had to say about that group.
This is one of the more impressive North Dakota signing classes, the expected signing classes that we have coming in. Brock Boltman is a kid that you really notice. He's a great athlete. He reminds me a little bit of a guy that you know well, Keaton Studry, who's from Benilde Margaret. And he's probably a little smaller, a little more light on his feet, very athletic. He's got a strong arm, and he's instinctive. He can make plays with his feet. He can make people miss. He was a terrific defensive back as well. I think when we did an all-metro team, he was what we consider our athlete choice. So I showed you that he's extremely versatile. I think North Dakota is a school that would be a perfect place for him to learn for a year or two, and then I think he'll definitely be a guy that's going to make some plays for you down the road once he gets comfortable in playing at that level. Connor Cruz is a massive kid, man. He's a big dude. I think he was the Wright County Conference Alignment of the Year at Waconia. Waconia had a great season this year. He's a kid that's going to go out and do just what you expect of a kid who's about 6'6", and about 290, 300. He's going to run you down. He's got that offensive line mauler mentality. Jalen Morrison, he's massive. I mean, he played some running back for Woodbury this year, some fullback. And while he's not, he wasn't going to dance around anybody, he's going to run people over, and he can do that. Now, I know he's playing defensive end, but it shows you the athleticism he's got out there. And DeVore has been a magnificent tight end. And if you look at him, he's long, he can catch, he can move. He's a kid that is extremely athletic, and I think he got a good one, kind of a diamond in the rough. He can make the catches, he can run with the ball after he gets it. He's not afraid to stick his nose in there when he needs the block, and he's going to get much bigger. I don't think any one of these kids, to be honest with you, is somebody that they're taking a flyer around hoping he develops. And each one of these kids has a very positive upside, and they're on the path to get to that point. That's what I'm looking at from these guys. I don't see a single one of them a bad selection.
Pretty high praise there from Jim Paulson of the Star Tribune. North Dakota, of course, had a lot of success getting kids out of the Twin Cities area and Minneapolis and the entire state of Minnesota in the past. We expect that to continue with this group from the class of 2017. When we come back here on the University of North Dakota Football Signing Day special, defensive coordinator Eric Schmidt joins us in studio. Stick around. Welcome back to our Midco Sports Network studios in Grand Forks, UND Football Signing Day Special 2017. And here to talk about the class of 2017 defensive coordinator Eric Schmidt. And Eric, this is a class you guys are really excited about. And before we get to that group of kids you're bringing to the defensive side of the football, let's talk about your defense this year. First in so many different Big Sky categories, first in scoring defense, first in takeaways, first in total defense. It just goes down the list. First in rush defense. What are some things that made this year so special for you on the defensive side of the ball?
I think the one thing this year, he just did a better job of taking the ball away. That was something that we really tried to emphasize here leading into 2016. Our guys did a great job. You talked about it here earlier, but 20 interceptions. I think it was we had 6 or 7 the year before, so that was something that was really crucial. And then scoring on defense and making some of those big plays was obviously something that helped us win football games and big football games. So. Our recipe is always going to be, our offense really helps us out as well. They're on the field a lot, and time of possession, stuff like that, and to keep trying to get the ball back to them as much as possible, and then defensively, it's play attack style. It's something we've hung our hat on here for a long time. We believe in it. Our coaching staff always believes in it, and when you have some success, definitely. Kind of bleeds through all your players as well. So it's something we can definitely build on here moving forward.
Yeah, certainly, and that feels like you're building on it with this group. You were a guy that was recruited by North Dakota out of Mandan in the mid-'90s. Talk about how this process has changed even in the last half decade or so.
Well, I think it's pretty similar yet. I still think for North Dakota kids, as far as the schools that are going to recruit them and all that kind of stuff. But a lot more guys involved. I think when I was recruited, it was probably your parents and your high school coach were the people that you leaned on, and now it's recruiting services, it's trainers. You got to get a lot of guys, it seems like, to say yes before the kid will say yes. But other than that, it's I think it's pretty similar. We're still looking for the same type of guy that'll fit in Grand Forks, and try to find some guys that are tough, that love football, and good people, good citizens in the community. So that part of it I don't think has changed very much. It's still I think holistically we're still looking for the right type of kid that's going to fit at our university.
Yeah, it sounds like you've got a lot of those types of kids coming into this season. And let's talk about this group. Now, you've always talked about trying to build depth up front. That's been one of the big mantras for this team since you took over in this 3-4 scheme. You've done that certainly the last couple of years. Feels like you're really adding to that, not just depth, but some really big-time stars along the front three.
Very important, I think, for us. As you look at defense, we took 11 guys. We took a guy at every spot. There'll be a new guy coming into to each one of those position coaches in each one of those rooms. But it always starts up front for us. We played 9 guys last year on the defensive line. We traveled a number of those guys. They even played some special teams for us, talking about like Carter Wilson and Mason Bennett and those guys. And I think these guys fit the exact traits that we look for. You look at a guy like Zeke Ott, he's really going to be a good pass rusher, a guy that's plays with a high motor. We really feel good about him. Jalen's a high school fullback, running back. The interesting part about him is Donnell Rogers, who's our starting inside backer now. He was the tailback, and Jalen was the fullback in high school. So now he'll be the nose, and
just
Donnell,
switching spots on the other side of the
he's
football.
Still going to be looking behind him, as far as that goes. And then we think Nick Honerlaw is just a tough, physical, our type of guy on defense. So yeah, you're exactly right. You can't have enough good defensive linemen. It's something that we're going to constantly recruit year in and year out and try to get as much depth there as we can.
Yeah, looking back now to that 4 linebacker set, you lose a couple of guys that were such big contributors this year. You have a lot of underclassmen that saw time last year that are going to step into those roles. But how does this freshman class now step in and try and help fill up in some of those gap areas?
Yeah, and, the one thing we did too is we've been able to develop some guys, move some guys around as far as positionally. Juwan Johnson became an outside backer. We're going to do the same thing now with Tanner Palmberg. We think he can come down there and help us out at that spot as well. And maybe with our running back situation, you might get some opportunities there to be able to get some guys some reps. But I think the guys coming in, Noah Larson, obviously a guy that we feel really, really good about. He was at our camp. He's a guy that fits, once again, an athletic guy. He's actually a state champion swimmer, believe it or not. But a guy that's really athletic. Hayden Reynolds, another in-state guy, guy that really impressed us at camp. We've been able to watch him a lot. Bryden Swenson, same thing from Hallock, a guy that we feel like, hey, he's got a huge upside as far as how big and athletic he is, and really is untapped. A kid that probably hasn't lifted many weights and stuff like that up to this point in his life. So our strength guys will really get an opportunity to work with him. Then Leaf Bungham's a guy that we really feel good about. He's a guy that can, played safety in high school, and then we really like to be able to move those guys from the back, down closer to the line of scrimmage, and he's physical enough to be able to handle it. So it's an important part for us, not only I think athletically, but finding guys that are really smart, football players, those guys. The learning of our defense is really in the hands of our linebackers and our safeties. So it's important to get guys in there that love football.
Yeah, you mentioned the safeties, and again, a couple more guys coming in, some converted kids, running backs, moving to that safety spot. A couple of kids out of Colorado that you're really excited about in that sense.
Yeah, Hayden Blubaugh probably going to play corner for us, but we had a great career as a high school running back at Grandview High School, and we had the opportunity to be able to watch him play corner a lot this summer at camps, and he really did a good job. And ball skills are so important. We talk about 20 interceptions last year. Those plays change games, and that's something that's really important to us. Ty Shannon is a really good track athlete. Him and like Ray Haas on our team right now compete against each other in track at the state meet in Colorado. So he's another guy we really feel good about. He's a guy that is going to have a huge ceiling, as far as he's going to grow and be become a man here over the next 4 years. He's a guy that we really think is going to be a big dude when it's all said and done. And then you look at some of our other guys. We like Kyle Hippus's his demeanor. The guy just competes. Danny saw him first out of the camp in Wisconsin, and then he came to our camp. And a lot of guys want to play receiver nowadays, but we actually go to that receiver board a lot just to be able to find guys that are athletic guys that can catch the ball. And then Thomas Stewart's already in-house, and he's everything what we'd hoped he'd be as far as watching him on workouts. Same thing, demeanor's good. Keeps his mouth shut, works hard. He's going to be a guy that's going to have a good career here. So he'll hit you, and really arrives at the football. And he's what we're looking for at the safety position. So once again, it's it's a guy at each spot. You know, you look at how kind of everything worked out. We want to do a really good job in the DB world and D-line as well, but everybody will have a new guy in their room, and I think that, you know, for a development part of your program, bringing good young players in is going to really help us moving forward.
Yeah, well, in a perfect world, I mean, that makes a lot of sense. You bring kids in across the board, you move them up at the same time, they graduate around the same time, they get to gel together as a defensive unit. Really, when you draw it up, that's not a bad way to go about it.
Yeah. Like I said, we really were going to concentrate on the front and the back end this year, and I think those linebacker guys for us in our neck of the woods, we're able to find those, you know, those 5'11" to 6'3", you know, 185 to 215-pound guys, you know, in this area. You're going to be able to find those guys, whether they're linebackers, fullbacks, you know, tight ends, H-back type guys. So it's really an emphasis to try to find D linemen and DBs every year, because that's, I think, can separate your program from the other programs defensively in our league.
Yeah, well, you've certainly done that again this offseason, Coach. Congratulations on the 11 new guys on the defensive side of the football. Great class again.
Yeah,
Appreciate the time, Eric.
Appreciate it.
One of Eric Schmidt's recruiting areas, the state of Colorado, and specifically that Denver metro area, been a big area where UND has gotten some great kids over the years. We had a chance to catch up with one of the prep editors in that area just a couple days ago, Kyle Newman. He gave us his thoughts on specifically 3 guys coming to UND this season.
You know, when you look at these 3 guys, North Dakota, in my opinion, is getting a steal just because these are guys that have been kind of overlooked, I think, in the state of Colorado and maybe by the Buffs and the Rams. And I think they're going to make some noise up in Grand Forks. You got Mikey Greibel from Columbine. I'd make the argument he's the best all-around football player to come out of the state this year. I mean, obviously, Dylan McCaffrey's going to Michigan, Jake Moretti, big lineman going to CU. But when you talk about a guy who can play all over the field and just has, like, football instincts just down pat, that's Mikey Greibel. And I think that's why at slot he's just going to slide right in, because he can run, he can pass, he can catch the ball. I mean, he can really do everything. And as one of those slot guys, he's got the speed to really be elusive in the middle of the field and then going vertical as well. Bluebaugh especially made his name as the running back, and I mean Tyler Shannon did too, but Bluebaugh was like one of the best backs in the state this past year. So some fans might be surprised to hear that he's playing DB in college, but I saw him play DB this past year too in high school. He's really good up to the line of scrimmage and keeping guys and pressing them. He can cover guys just like Greibel and Shannon. He's got speed to run with guys down the field. The Valor Christian coach, they won the state championship this year. They won it last year. So he knows good football players, and he was stunned that Bluebaugh did not get an offer from CU or CSU. And same thing with Shannon, I mentioned. He's kind of like a center fielder back there. He did that for Ralston Valley all fall, had quite a few interceptions. So I'm anxious to see kind of what strides he can make, and Bluebaugh too, when they focus 100% of their time on the defensive side of the ball. Why they all chose UND? Well, UND showed interest in them the whole time. They kept up with them. So at the end of the day, when these 3 guys sat down and looked at their offers, and Mikey Greibel had the most offers out of all of them, but it just came down to that trust factor, and that's what Mikey told me himself, is that he trusts these coaches, he trusts what they're building up there, where they're going, and they're all anxious to be a part of it.
Good stuff. Thank you to Kyle Newman of the Denver Post. Let's get back now out to the hallway. Greg Enkers standing by with UND running backs coach and recruiting coordinator Kevin Maurice. Greg?
Thanks again, Alex. Yeah, Coach, running backs coach, that's your main duty here, but another duty that you have is recruiting coordinator. Take me through kind of the role and responsibilities that you have in that role on Coach Schweigert's staff.
Yeah, so one of my main duties is to make sure I gather enough data for the coaches in terms of finding recruits and securing recruiting services for our coaches, and also handle all the on-campus and off-campus duties of recruiting per se.
Sounds good. You've been doing this for 4 years now. You're entering your 4th year here on staff. Tell me about the philosophy that you have as a recruiter, and what about that makes it effective?
The most important thing with my philosophy is to identify the kids that fit the mold for a UND football player, the North Dakota guy per se. First thing we look for is that self-starter, that kid that he's going to be really self-motivated to work out on his own, gather up the troops. When he's out on the field, he doesn't need much coaching. And then that high achiever, okay, the kid that's going to be really great on the field and off the field in terms of academics and being a good contributor to society. And then that kid, that it's going to mean something to wear that ND on their helmet. The kid that wants to be here, I think that's the most important thing. So that's one of the first keys is try to identify those type of kids within our region.
Mm-hmm. The world of recruiting feels like it has evolved immensely in the last 5 to 10 years. What do you see as being the biggest challenges that you have to come across now that maybe you didn't 5 years ago or so?
You know what? Some of the biggest challenges, I really think they're fun too. Just being up to speed in terms of social media, and then kind of keeping up with the Joneses. And there's nothing wrong with that. And finding innovative ways to connect with recruits. Like 5 years ago it was Facebook. Now it's Instagram, and now you have different platforms you got to connect with recruits with. It's totally different from when I played in the 90s, where, you wait for that phone call on a rotary phone sometimes at home, but or landline. But now it's totally different. So the challenges, on a year-by-year basis, they come, but I think they're fun. And I think it's within the framework of the NCAA, and it works out pretty well. And coaches pick up on it, and we'll go on from there.
One of the few days that the fax machine still gets used across the country. Coach Maurice, thanks so much for your time. Best of luck this season, and you got a pretty nice job with the running backs that you have coming in next fall. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, that's Coach Maurice, running backs coach and recruiting coordinator. Alex, let's toss it back to you in the studio.
Sounds good. Thank you, Greg. Thanks to Kevin Maurice as well joining us now. Look, we traded out Eric Schmidt for Tom Miller, ladies and gentlemen. Tom now in his 12th season covering the University of North Dakota for the Grand Forks Herald. And Tom, you've been on this beat for a while, and you've been on this particular class for a long time. You talk about the coaches putting in the work. You've been following this really from day one.
Yeah, I try to pay pretty close attention to how the recruiting game works out, especially the last few years. You've seen true freshmen contribute right away, so that makes following the recruiting game a little more interesting.
You've obviously covered the team for a long time. You've seen how the landscape has maybe changed over the last couple of seasons. Certainly since Bubba Schweigert has got here, this is a very different type of athlete and a different type of kid that's been coming to UND since just really the last 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, I think the staff talks a lot about a certain size of kid they want in that 6'2", 200-pound range, the kind of type of kids who can do a lot of different things, they like to say. And the recruiting footprint has kind of changed over the last 3-4 years here, and kind of shrunken more towards some of the traditional grounds that UND is accustomed to recruiting. So those are kind of a couple of the areas this staff has really changed.
Yeah, where did you see this UND team, an area they needed to address this offseason? How do you think they've done that so far with this group of 24 kids they're bringing in?
Yeah, I think offensively we saw that when Clive Georges got hurt in week 1 at Stony Brook, that UND had a hard time sometimes stretching the field with a playmaker on the edge, and I think they addressed some of that speed at wide receiver, whether it was Mikey Greibel out of Colorado or Cam McKinney out of Washington, or they've got about 3 wide receivers in this class who might be on the smaller end of things. But that was kind of the area that they needed to improve on, because they had in the last class Travis Toivonen and Noah Wanzik that kind of addressed the height that they needed at wide receiver. So I think that was their biggest area in need, and I feel like that's what they recruited to. Yeah,
if there's maybe an overarching label or a feel for this class, what would you say is kind of the defining characteristic of this group they've brought in this season?
I think it addressed some needs with some speed. I think some of the guys I mentioned will really help with the offense and some of the, explosive nature that they needed to address, because they had, so much talent at running back with, Santiago and Oliveira, and then adding James Johannesson. So, I think that's the big area that they accomplish here.
Yeah, certainly. We're talking with Tom Miller here of the Grand Forks Herald. Tom, as you look at this team's prospects now for 2017, still a couple of years away from a Missouri Valley move, but still very much in the mix of things in the Big Sky. How do you see things playing out? A very veteran team coming back. You got to like the way things look and how things are lining up for North Dakota next season.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough act to follow for Bubba Schweigert. You take a team that was 3-8 to 5-7 to 7-4, and then you take them to Big Sky Conference champions. Where's the next step? It's going to be tough to keep that momentum. But like you said, they bring back plenty of All-Americans, All-Conference kids. a good core on offense and defense and special teams. So with this class they bring in, you would imagine that they would be considered, that upper echelon of the Big Sky Conference again next season. I think their schedule is going to be pretty challenging. Starting at Utah, having to deal with Eastern Washington this season. I think those are going to be some real interesting things to watch because it's going to be tough to follow what they did last year.
Yeah. Would you vote them number one if I put the ballot in front of you right now as far as preseason favorites in the Big Sky? Not to put you on the spot on a Wednesday morning in February.
No, I think you have to. I think Eastern Washington has had some turnover here, both with the coaching staff and with the roster. And, maybe Montana didn't have the year they wanted to have. So, North Dakota is probably going to be considered, the favorite to win the league.
Yeah, something to watch for certainly when those ballots come out come August. Tom Miller, thanks so much again for the time. Enjoy a little breath of fresh air after this to switch and maybe, not worry so much about recruiting for a little while. Thanks again for the time this morning.
Absolutely.
Let's take another quick check of the University of North Dakota football headquarters here. Guys, breathing a sigh of relief again. All 16 verbal commitments saying yes and signing on the dotted line this morning. A lot of happy guys in that war room right now. When we come back, we're going to wrap things up and preview what's coming up in 2017 for North Dakota football. Stick around. It's here on Midco Sports Network. Welcome back to Grand Forks and our Midco Sports Network Studios UND Football Signing Day Special. We've got a couple minutes left here to kind of tie up some loose ends. And one area that we've not talked as much as we should have so far is the athletes from in-state that are coming to represent North Dakota this fall. And our own Jason Andera is going to join us now from our Sioux Falls studios. And Jason, our prep high school expert, you know this group of kids very well, a really talented group of high school athletes, as well as a former in-state guy in Fargo South running back, James Johannes, and a pretty good crew for Bubba Schweigert and the guys.
Yeah, there's a lot to like, that's for sure. I've watched a lot of high school football, as you know, and there are certain players that are just unique. And James Johanneson is one of those players. I've never seen a North Dakota high school running back do what he's done. He's definitely got those Big Ten measurables, the power, the speed. He's about 6'1", 230, a load to take. And I remember back as a high school player, a two-time Gatorade Player of the Year in high school. He did things that I didn't see anybody else do. Hasn't been able to show that at the college level yet, though. As you know, redshirted his freshman year at Minnesota. And so there's still a lot of tread on those tires. So he's probably going to make the biggest impact of anyone coming to Grand Forks this fall. But let's talk about some of the high school seniors who are excited to join this program. You've got Jack Pfeiffer, who played quarterback exclusively at Fargo South. His skills really took a leap from his junior to his senior year, but I think what got UND excited was his athletic ability. He's just so quick, he can run, he can jump, he's tall, so it's easy to see for me him transition to that wide receiver position that he was recruited for at UND. Andrew Jones, he's a guy that I think UND was initially excited about on the defensive side of the ball, but watching him block at Northern Cass, they think he'll make a great fullback in their system. Jones is a guy that has worked for everything he's got. Hasn't always been that star athlete growing up on the field, but all the hard work in the weight room and the focus on the football field has truly made Andrew a great player. Jones told me he got to be good friends with Hayden Reynolds of West Fargo Cheyenne, and they've been talking a lot about playing together, and they're going to actually room next year together. So it's great to have some good in-state chemistry working for you. Speaking of Hayden, he jumps off the page when you watch him play defense. Just so quick, such a good instinct player at the linebacker position. And he's not just strong, he's quick, and he is a phenomenal fundamental tackler, something you need at the FCS level. So much to like about this kid, and now he's the first kid out of West Fargo Cheyenne, by the way, to be able to play at the FCS level, so pioneer of sorts for the Mustangs. So one thing that really stood out to me about all these guys, Alex, is the in-state pride and the natural leadership. Just talking to these guys, they're going to be good leaders at the FCS level. These are the kind of kids that you want to stay in North Dakota and play for your program. So get ready to root for these North Dakota players. I know I'll have fun watching them take that next step on Saturdays.
Good stuff. Thank you, Jason. We'll have fun watching Jason Andera tonight on the Varsity Sports Live Signing Day Special, 6:30 p.m. on Midco, and a chance to wrap up everything that's happened around the Dakotas on National Signing Day 2017. Looking ahead for the University of North Dakota, Spring and fall schedule looks like this. March the 3rd, spring practice gets going. April 14th, the big spring game here in Grand Forks. First game of the season coming up on August 31st after players have been reported for fall camp for about a month. You see the 2017 schedule there. Tom Miller mentioned it a moment ago, a tougher schedule this season in the Big Sky, going to Montana, hosting Eastern Washington, but one we certainly are looking forward to. Greg Enkers is looking forward to it. Let's get the final thoughts out in the hallway from Greg.
Hey, Alex, thanks. It's a bittersweet moment now because we're all jacked up. We got these new players that are ready to come in and become Fighting Hawks in the fall, but we have to wait 212 days now for the season to begin at Utah. It should be an exciting 2017 season.
Greg already starting the countdown. I love it. Well, hey, big thanks to Greg Enkers, to our entire UND coaching staff for being here all morning. Their job's certainly not done. A quick check again of the University of North Dakota headquarters over there. These guys have been great all morning, sticking around to make this happen. Congratulations to them on a fantastic signing day 2017. For all of our crew here at Midco SN, I'm Alex Heinert. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll catch you next time.